Watch out, we're about to start, guys.
Jim, you all set? All right. Can you spell that out? What were the numbers? Yeah.
Right, right.
But we own like 4 canoes.
How you doing?
Still getting used to it.
Right. Jim, not yet, right? We're all set? All right. Welcome to the January 10th, 2024 meeting of the Pelham Conservation Commission. If you could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Karen, could you please take roll call?
Jesse Vaughn,
Here.
Paul Gagnon,
Here.
Ken Stanvic,
Here.
Mike Gendro,
Here.
Dave Abear,
Here.
Scott Bodum,
Here.
Calvin Webster,
Here.
Karen McKay here, Kara Kubit, Al Stewart, absent.
All right, so with Al not being available tonight, Scott, you'll be a voting member tonight?
Okay.
All right. The first item up on the agenda tonight is map 29, lot 7, 117, which is 135 Bridge Street. Proposed redevelopment of the site with WCD impacts, presentation by Joe Maynard of Benchmark LLC. Mr. Maynard, please come up and introduce yourself and present your case.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Joe Maynard. I'm with Benchmark LLC. I'm here tonight with the owner of Salon 38, which is Julie Michaud. Thanks for coming out before Christmas for the site walk. We were lucky, had a nice day. After that meeting, I sat down on that Sunday morning and I read through hours worth of deeds. I then went to the registry on Monday and I read through even more deeds because I'm trying to figure out what was happening with all the easements that are out here. Ultimately, I got it figured out. I did find, let's start with the easement on the north end of the site. So the easement on the north end of the site was a right-of-way easement to the bank property, and it also went to a lot that was behind this that is now part of this property. So in 2001, when the bank went in the bank's chain of title, they extinguished their easement up that side and redefined it to be a different shape than it was. So it used to follow the lot line. Where the lot line took a hard left, it followed that, and it was a 35-foot path all the way down next to the brook, and there's an old foundation and some other stuff down in that area, and I think that was some of the reason for the right-of-way on that side. In 2001, when the bank came in, I think they needed something from this property, and both property owners came to some agreement, and they extinguished the entire length of it on the right side of the lot and across the back, and in exchange, it got made into a rectangle shape directly adjacent to Route 38. And the easement now is a rectangle 68 feet by 62 feet in size. So ultimately, what that did to our plan is a couple of things. Well, let me continue on first with what else I found on this for easements. So this property had some heirs that owned the piece behind it. So there was a lot line that, I don't know if Jimmy has it on my screen, but there was a lot line here. And so there was a tract of land in the back, and then there was this front property. The easement that was on this side was given a right-of-way to and from the back land. Ultimately, in 1991, there was a transfer of the rights for the back land and the easement to the front property, and therefore, it's under the jurisdiction of my client who owns the entire property. So ultimately, the easement that was on the south side of the site, we can extinguish that as part of our proposal to move forward. There's no need, no intention to ever try and get to the back of this lot for any kind of development. We all know it's all WCD, it's brook, it's floodplain. So I think that cleans up kind of what was going on with the easements that are on the lot. So therefore, we sat down and we said, let's see what we can do with our plan and modify everything to see what can come out of this. So ultimately, as you can see up in this corner, the 62 by 68 square, that's the easement to the bank, is something I can't put a structure in. So what I ended up doing was we jogged the building, and it gave us the ability to put a couple of additional parking spaces on the north end of the site. I ended up changing the septic from the south side of the site to the north side of the site, primarily because we were talking about the runs and stuff of the sewer, but for the best spot outside of the easement and to be able to use the property in its fullest potential, I put the septic now at this side. So there was a variance before the Zoning Board of Adjustment to allow the tanks and stuff at the south side of the site, and part of the setback from this ditch was also part of the request. But because of this change from this side to this side now, there's no longer the need for the portion of the variance that had septic and tanks within the WCD or within the proximity to the WCD. At the south side of the site, we took our infiltration system that we originally had at the north, and we put it in the WCD in roughly the spot where the tanks were going to go. Primarily, it's a good location. It allows us to pick up the roof runoff. It allows us to pick up some of the pavement, and therefore, the increase in impervious surface. So like I said before, there's about 9,000 square feet of impervious surface. There's just over 11,000 with this proposed plan. So that increase in impervious coverage will be infiltrated into a ground system, and some of the water that'll go to that will be both from the building and from the parking lot. So ultimately, we'll be able to meet the ordinance that the town has for rate of increase, storm capacity, pre-treatment of our runoff before it gets discharged from that system towards the wetlands that are this. The other thing that came out of this is, so as we look at our square footages, so we did take that square at this, or this rectangle at the north end of the building out, but my client, we always had a little section of office above the main center of her space. And that upstairs was really just for her office and a break room for her employees. Ultimately, I sat down with Julie after I found all these easements and put it all together. We laid out her floor plan. So the salon itself is going to take about 2,900 square feet of the structure for her business at this point in time, with about 400 and something square feet of office above that portion. That area is pretty much the minimum that she needs for her layout and how she runs her operation. The portion at the north at this point, like we said before, would just be a rental space. It's 800 square feet, I think is what it ended up working out to be. You know, in some time, and hopefully the future, as her business grows, it'll probably end up taking the entire building for its use. As we discussed before, also a new well, septic now is outside setbacks, and from a parking perspective, we meet the parking of the town's ordinance for the salon, for the vacant space at the north end of the building. For that space, I just use the town's retail kind of office number, which is one space for every 250 square feet. The salon is one space for every 300 square feet. Ultimately, it came down, we needed 14 parking spaces, and we have 14 parking spaces proposed with this plan. I also did go out there, we dug test pits last Friday out there. It's typical of Pelham. There is a layer of fill that's roughly 4 feet thick. It reminded me of material I saw across the street on the Pelham Plaza property. I've done work on that piece of land. It's a dense till fill material, so I think at some point this lot was taking material from across there to make the level area that you see now. Once you got below that till layer, it was all sand and gravel, which is very typical of the center of town and the property that's along Beaverbrook. So I can answer some questions for you if you have any. I'm looking here too. I think we talked about, we found out that the tanks were removed in 2015. They've been monitoring those, the property through the monitoring wells that are on the site now for almost 20 years. And there's still a few years left of monitoring, but the wells themselves have been clean, and there hasn't been any sign of any residual chemicals from the gas use of the lot. Oh, that's right, too. Yep, so I did send you an email. I reached out to John Hodge at the fire department, and I had John send me an email, and I forwarded it to Karen. John pretty much reiterated what I told you, that the fire department had no issues with the plan as proposed. So.
Which members should have seen that? I sent that to everyone.
Yep.
Okay.
Do members have any questions or comments?
Yeah, can I start? So with the proposed plan, what I don't see are the proposed grades on the back side of the building. So how much more is the WC going to be impacted on the back side with the grade?
So I'm not changing the grade of the backside of the structure. The way the lot, it slopes away from Route 38, so the back wall of this structure will be a knee wall with a wood wall above it. There's no intention to do any more excavation through that area than we need. It's just as construction for the building, we got to be able to get around the building itself for construction. Once the construction's done, we've proposed some low bush blueberries along the slope to help with slope stabilization. As the board members who are at the sidewalk saw, there's a large grouping of pine trees that are through that area, so it's a very acidic soil. So I think the low bush blueberries will take very well in that kind of a soil condition and help stabilize that slope behind the building. But the grade behind the building will remain the same.
Okay.
Anyone else? Dave.
How long do you have to monitor those wells? Excuse me.
So Julie has been dealing with the state on that, and I think she had told me that
20 years is what I was told by the project manager on site.
And is that something that they tell you every year you have to do it by a certain date?
I think they do it, right?
They do it. I don't have, I don't have any financial responsibility or any responsibility at all, other than having to switch it over to me as being the owner from the previous owner. They come out, I think, 2 or 3 times a year and do their testing, and I just have to let them be able to access
Now,
it.
if there was an issue, whose responsibility is that?
So I think at this point in time, if there was an issue, it would have been seen already. Where it's a 20-year time frame, we're almost at that 20-year time frame. The reports that we've seen from the historical beginning of this show that there really hasn't been any MBTE or anything like that from the tanks that were in the property. So,
Thank you.
What, to support Dave's question, who's responsible should they find something?
I guess we'd have to check. The gas company that operated on the property is probably the responsible party, is my experience with that. I have some friends who have owned gas stations over the years, and they still keep their records from when they sold the property to show that when they turned it over to the new business, that there was a net zero contamination from that point back. So they had owned gas stations for 40 years, the family. They sold them over time, and like I said, to this day, they won't get rid of their records because they didn't want anybody to come back at them. So if this was still a gas company, they would have to do, well, basically, my understanding about gas is that the tanks have been being upgraded over time, and there's double wall, and they've got I don't know, it's a gauge that goes around that is a transmitter that tells if there's some leak through the inner tank before it gets to the outer tank. And so those are tested annually is
Right, but
what,
that's not the case we have right now. I guess
No.
the answer I'm looking for is who is responsible financially should one of those tests come back and show that there is contamination? If the previous owners, it's a company, went out of business, unless there's a bond somewhere, then the liability for that cleanup, if you will, would fall on the current owners of the property, correct?
I'm not sure how that works. I don't deal with gas companies a lot anymore. We haven't done one in the office in 15
So
years.
you're speculating how it works.
I just know from my experience from a friend of mine whose family owned 5 gas stations. We talk about it every once in a while still to this day. And so their responsibility ended because their reports, when they sold and moved on, the new gas company, and so it wasn't that it went from a gas company to nothing with their use. It went from a gas company to another gas company. And so the new gas company took over the
In
liability.
this case,
for
we
it.
don't have a gas company to a gas company. We have what was a previous activity there, your clients coming in and bought that property.
Correct.
The testing of the well will continue. Probability is that it's been so long since, and nothing's been found. Probability is it's probably not going to be found. But the question that Dave asked was, who is responsible financially should something be found and contamination cleanup needs to occur?
I don't know.
The state didn't seem to think that there was gonna be an
Well, I
issue,
didn't
so
think there
we
is.
never
That
went
was-
into that.
Yeah, okay. So, okay.
I still think that we should do some research into it just to make sure that, we cover all our bases, please.
I'll look into it, but like I said, I know the reports are all online. They're all showing, and there's a disclaimer at the bottom that says they're below state levels.
I completely understand that, but I just want to make sure that you don't get stuck with something if there were to be.
I
a
have in
problem.
writing from the state before I bought the property, when I did my homework, that there wouldn't be any issue from a state perspective with any contamination moving forward because the levels were going down so much. So I was not concerned on that, or I wouldn't have bought the property.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have questions or comments. Does anybody else? I'm trying to write down different things that I want to say. Okay, so first off, let me say, I totally appreciate you working with the septic, getting that out of the WCD. That's really good. I think the increased parking is good because we were all kind of questioning that a little bit last time. Is the square feet of the building the same as what it was? It looks like it's jogged a little, so did you have to change the square footage of the building, or?
So I added the square footage I lost there in the office above the space that Julie's keeping.
Okay, so
But it's only one section of the building that's gonna have that office. It's 432 square feet, I think it was 420 square feet. On the
Okay.
second level will be an office break room for her business.
okay, so that's more, there's not clients and stuff gonna be
No,
in
it's
that
strictly,
area, so-
Instead of putting my room downstairs with a closet and stuff like that for my vacuum and things, I'll bring it
Right.
upstairs.
Okay,
I'll just-
okay,
I'll
so
just
that,
adjust
is that
that
maxed out at 4, whatever, you couldn't get more footage up there? or
No,
square footage up
14
there?
parking spaces. So I quantified the space in parking calculations, and that's
Oh.
what brought me to 14.
Okay.
The only way that would change is if Julie takes over the rest of the first floor as salon, we would gain, the parking numbers would go down because retail office is one space for every 250 square feet, and for the salon is one space for every 300 square feet.
Okay,
So in the end, it might be one space. That's the change, so, or one additional space.
okay, so then the underground drainage area, is that like that's like a different kind of system than what we usually have seen with like detention
Yeah, so
ponds and stuff
picture a
like that,
detention
too?
pond, but in the ground. So when I build a detention pond, I have to build side slopes associated with it, and they get very big fast. For the amount of flows on an 11,000 square foot lot, I can do plastic arches. We have very deep water tables out there, so I can use tall arches, and I don't need as many to reduce my peaks and do my pre-treatment before it discharges. So ultimately, it'll just be a grassed area that it's under the surface on.
Okay, and you won't even see
You won't even see it.
really?
Yeah.
And it can handle the whole roof and how much of the parking? Like how
It's
much is
gonna-
it supposed?
So when we look at the town's drainage requirements, so we have to manage the first flush stuff, right? So and we have to control peaks. And so in this design, the increase of that 2,000, 2,500, whatever it is, square feet, is a volume that we calculate to put in these chambers. And the town has certain guidelines. We have to look at it from a 25-year storm event, and we have to make sure that it'll handle that capacity without breaching. And so all of those calculations come in as we do the planning board portion and the outside review that comes with that.
Okay.
But that system, we ran some rough numbers for what we were anticipating, and that box should hold the size of the chambers that would be necessary for this.
Okay, did you say not all the parking will go to it?
No, because some of the parking flows to the front, and I can't
Oh,
grab
and
that water.
It'll go down and into that ditch that's along 38
road.
or whatever?
Yeah, and there's a couple of basins right at the driveway entrance.
Okay.
They got decent sumps on them. They seem clean. The state cleans them out every once in a while.
Okay.
But I didn't see sediment trapped in them or anything, so.
Okay, so the building is the same size, but you put some of the footage upstairs?
Yes.
Okay. What is the square foot of the WCD impacts? Did that change at all with?
No, stayed the same.
Okay, can you say what those were?
Oh, you gotta ask me that, aren't you?
Yeah,
So-
well, yeah.
Hold on a second here. Oh, wait, I think I wrote it right on the plan. Let's see. Give me a second. Including the plantings behind the building, we're talking 35 by 110. Roughly, what's that, 3,600? Make me do the math, it's late. Calculator.
3850?
About, yeah, so say 4,000 square feet is roughly what the impact's gonna be.
And that's what it was previous?
Yeah, it never changed.
It didn't change?
No.
Okay, and then the area of where this easement is, it looks like it's paved right up to the edge of the building. Is that how it's gonna
It is, I can't touch the pavement in the easement.
Is there already pavement in
Yeah,
that easement?
there is.
Oh, okay, so the building will just snug right up to it?
Snug right up to it. There's a granite curb there now. It's just gonna go right up to that face.
Okay, and so you still have the 4,000 square foot for the building? You just put 400 of it upstairs?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, I don't have any more right now.
Sure.
Paul?
Joe, you had previously said there was 9,000 square feet of impervious with the old gas station and 11,000 now. That didn't change, is that correct?
No,
Okay. So, I'll just jump to the conclusion. I'm in favor. I'm in favor for a number of reasons. First of all, hats off to you. I went out there after the flood on, well, I call it a flood, December 19th. I mean, they closed Old Bridge Street because Beaver Brook was going over Old Bridge Street. So that's about as close to a flood we've had since Mother's Day. And your stakes could not have been more precisely set. I have 3 pictures of 3 stakes, and I swear half the stakes in the water and half the stakes out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they were perfect. So
It-
I'm convinced there's no flood storage loss. There was water going under the bank. So hats off to the bank for putting because as you said, the bank sticks out significantly closer to the brook. And there was water going under the flood storage tanks in the bank. But it came up right where you show on your map and right where the stakes were. So I'm convinced there's no flood storage loss. I appreciate the 2 additional parking spaces, which, just for the record, are over the septic area, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Just to make sure I'm getting that right. The underground drainage that Karen talked about and you talked about is a way to offset the extra 2,000 square feet. In fact, more than the 2,000 square feet of additional
Yeah.
impervious. You're gonna take care of more than that. Not the whole 11, but more
But
than
I'm
2.
taking more, yeah.
Right. Then Karen said moving the septic tanks and the leach field out of the WCD. So basically, we have about half the building in the WCD. Is that ideal? No. Would we like none? Of course. But it's a pretty ugly site now. This is going to be a big improvement. Hopefully, the parking is sufficient, so we're not going to be back here asking us to put 2 more parking spaces in the future. The plantings around the building, I don't have any reservations. I'm really happy with the changes you made and the site walk, and so I'm a yes.
Any other comments, questions?
I think I have a comment. I'm guessing that most of the WCD impact is the result of this very thin strip of wetland that points out to the north.
It is.
Okay. I spoke with Concord today, Craig Day, who's in the...
He's in shoreline protection.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I said, is it practical in a situation such as this to move the wetland? Moving it meaning for the purpose of no net loss. And he obviously didn't want to comment on the specific case, but said in cases similar to this, it could possibly be done without even having a professional wetland scientist involved, that an application would only have to be approved by presumably this wetland commission, as well as the wetland reviewer for Pelham, whoever that turned out to be.
Yeah, her name's Seda. She does the southern New Hampshire region.
Oh,
So,
okay. It's just a point of information. My question, I guess, is that if you did that, would it reduce, could it result in the reduction of that 4,000 square foot impact?
no, and the reason, and I'll tell you this, so when, the one permit I never like to apply for is a dredge and fill permit, okay? Because they first look at avoidance and minimization, right? That's their biggest thing. Do you need to fill that wetland for a purpose? That's what it all comes down to. So like, if this wasn't floodplain behind me and I was trying to extend back,
Yeah.
for commercial development, I could probably get a permit to fill that wetland, okay? Which would then change the buffer, right? But because of the flood elevation, I don't want to deal with the flood stuff, because now I've got to do like the bank did or Walgreens did. I got to put vaults, I got to mitigate it. There's a lot of expense, very expensive ways to do that. But for the net product that this property will be developed for what it is and what's wet, it doesn't make sense to do that, so.
Okay.
Ken?
Question, can you talk a little bit more about the maintenance of that underground storage area?
Sure.
Drainage area? I know in the past, when we talked detention ponds, the responsibility for maintaining those detention ponds gets transferred typically to the town. What happens with this particular one?
So the only time a detention pond gets transferred to the town is on a public road. So private sites like this, that responsibility, even if it's an open pond or an underground pond, stays with the property owner. So the way this system works is, somewhere on the pavement, we'll have to put a catch basin frame to allow inlet for that, and then there will be a pipe that'll go into these chambers. One row of the chamber system they call the isolator row, and there's these clean out covers that go to the surface. So when the vac truck comes yearly, every other year, typically after year one you do it and you see what kind of sediment you have in the system. If it doesn't have a lot, you might be able to go 2 years before you have to have the sediment sucked out of it. But we put a fabric down under that chamber so it creates a barrier that they can stick the vacuum in and suck out any sediment that's within that. And then the inlet structure is a catch basin, just like any other one with a sump, and that gets sucked out also as part of that. So on our plans and for the application to the planning board, there's a complete operation and maintenance schedule for these things on the plan set. And that goes with the property owner for maintenance.
Thank you.
There will be an outlet to that somewhere, but it'll be a smaller one because we're using it for detention also, so it'll act like a wear device, so.
Thank you.
I just have like one more thing.
Sure, go ahead, Karen.
So back to the square footage of the WCD, what's the square footage not including like the blueberries and stuff? Because that's not gonna stay impacted.
No, it's a temporary.
Yeah, so can you split that temporary to and the permanent out, or roughly?
It looks like pretty much half the building, Karen, so it's
yeah,
like,
25.
1,500 square feet or something is the building.
Yeah, I'd have to guess.
It's
It's
half the
probably
building.
about 2,000 square feet is
Yeah.
the building.
Is permanent,
Yeah,
and then 2,000 is temporary?
yeah.
Okay.
I do want to point out too, I did do a research at the archives at the state. I did find a septic approval for this lot from the state of New Hampshire in 1971. So there was actually a state-approved system on the property, so.
Was
Are
it
you-
actually installed?
What's that?
Was it actually installed?
Yeah.
or just-
Yeah.
So you know where it is?
If it was built per the plan, you're gonna remember the 1970s and 80s were the Wild West with that kind of stuff. And I've gone on properties where the plan says it's in the front yard, but it's in the backyard. It's just the way it was back then. They do amendeds and they just leave them in the distribution box back in
Well,
the day.
so what are you gonna do about that? Are you gonna end up digging that up?
It falls somewhere near the building, so a big
So you-
portion of it's gonna go. It was a pipe and stone septic system, so it's just aggregate material, and it hasn't been in use for years, so it's dirt at this
So
point.
as you start digging, you're just gonna dig it up?
We're gonna dig it
probably?
up, whatever we hit, we'll dig out.
Okay,
Anyone
I
else?
think I'm good.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Well, you
Second.
gotta see if the public.
Second?
I need to see if there's any public comment
Oh,
first.
sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Any public comment? All right.
Okay. Then
Revisit
we'll
that
make the
motion?
In that
We'll make
case,
the
I make a
motion.
motion
I'll make
to
a motion.
approve the revised plan.
I second the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I also.
Thank you.
Anybody abstain?
No, you don't have to say.
Yeah. All right, all in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be nice if they all went that well, huh?
Right, yeah.
No,
Maybe
that
I
was
should
good.
be-
I really appreciate you guys working at that and to get it
Thank
better,
you.
you know?
Trying to make it better.
Oh, it's good. Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda, we have map 32, lots 1 through 139, 1 through 140, and 1 through 142, Spalding Hill Road, proposed open space subdivision with WC impacts, presentation by Shane Gendron of Edenwood and Habert Associates Incorporated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
How are you, Shane?
If you could please introduce yourself.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Shane Gendron. I'm employed with Herbert Associates, and I represent Roger Montbleu and Roger Montbleu Irrevocable Trust in this application. A little about the property. What we're doing, we have 2 lots that we're combining and basically subdividing into 23 new lots. We went to the planning board about a little more than a year ago, and we talked about the subdivision in 2 aspects, and I don't remember if we came to conservation around that time or not, but we talked about a conventional subdivision and then an open space subdivision. We did a layout of a conventional subdivision that we had some wetland crossings and some different things, and it used up every acre of the 43 acres of land. We also did an open space proposal that conserved quite a bit of land, about 22 acres. The board kind of unanimously motion that they wanted us to move forward with the open space layout. So that's what we did. One of the situations that we've run into in this area of town is water. Water is a huge concern for this area of Pelham. And so one of the things on this property about 20 years ago, 3 wells were drilled. And the idea is to put together these 3 wells and do a community water system. Planning board was happy with that proposal because water is such a problem in this area of town. And in the first meeting and in the last meeting we've had, that's most of the concern. Most of the abutters are concerned about water. Their water usage is low. Some of them have multiple wells, so they're very concerned. So we've agreed to go with a community water system and test the wells. We've been working on that. In fact, we just retested the wells on a 4-hour pump test last week. And we've been working on the application and getting it moving, and part of it is to come to you folks. Now, I had sent a plan to Karen last week that is part of the plans that I handed out to you. All I'm giving you tonight is just the cover sheet and then the layout of the subdivision with our WCD impacts. I have no wetland impacts as part of this proposal, but I do have some WCD impacts, and so we've laid those out. Total, they come out to about 33,760 square feet of impact, and most of it is either for grading around my roadways or grading around my detention areas. There's also a roadway that's provided down to the lowest detention area and down to my wells, because I have to have access down to those wells. In the future, either Pennachuck or Hampstead Water Company or some company like that will run this water system, and they need to have access to that pump house down there. There's tanks down there. There most likely will be filtration equipment in that pump house building, and they'll need access. So that's what some of those gray areas that are shaded out on the plan. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward subdivision. We're proposing about 2,050 linear feet of roadway between the 2 roads, the road that comes in off of Spalding Hill and then the secondary road that goes down to the cul-de-sac. And that's all 24-foot wide closed drainage roadway. That was also one of the benefits of doing the subdivision open space layout. We were able to cut down on the roadway by almost 1,000 feet of roadway, and then obviously conserve almost 22 acres of land as open space. I know this board would like to do a site walk. Usually you folks want to have us here to discuss the project, schedule a site walk, and then probably come back and, present again or any questions that you may have. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions I can, and obviously would like to schedule that site walk at some point.
Any questions, comments?
I have no
Oh,
particular.
I have questions. I'm sorry, Scott, I thought I saw you raise your hand.
No, I was trying to, he looked at me, I was trying to gesture him away.
Shane, just some softballs to begin with. This lot, you said 23 lot subdivision, right?
It's a 23-lot subdivision. The only thing I didn't explain is that there's 2 lots that exist up on Spalding Hill Road.
okay.
Those 2 lots are being plotted as conventional subdivision lots, and they're not. They're going to front on Spalding Hill Road, and they're going to be conventional lots. So it's the existing lot that has Dennis Montblu's house on it, and then a lot next to it, lot
1-140?
1-140, my eyes aren't good. Both of those lots were plotted as conventional lots, so they weren't factored into the open space calculation or really part of the open space subdivision, other than we will be giving that new lot water from the subdivision. So there's gonna be a covenants in there for that lot, basically a provision so that they can provide water to that lot, because we don't wanna be drilling any new wells. The existing house that is on 1-139 has an existing well and will remain on that well.
So there's 22 new lots.
22 new open space lots.
And do you recall in the conventional subdivision, how many lots?
25. We
That's
had-
what I thought.
We had 25 lots. yeah.
Okay, so it's not usual that you ask for fewer, so hats off to that. for
I would like to
whatever
have
reason.
more, but my.
No, I'm not pushing you in that direction. No, that's
order-
not the way we're going with
In
this.
order to get the drainage to work, we needed to lose a couple lots, and the lot that I would have gained wasn't going to make a lot of sense for us, so.
Good, because I thought that was the case when I saw the first subdivision. So then that brings me simply to the question of this, the Area 3 and Area 4 WCD impacts, and that is a detention pond?
That is a detention
In
pond
the
that
middle of
handles,
the open space lot?
yes, and that handles most of our drainage down in that lower area. One of the things you're going to notice about this property when we walk it is it basically slopes from Spalding Hill Road all the way down to about where that detention area, and then keeps going. But where that detention area is a very flat area.
So, I'm sure you've thought of this, but I mean, I've got to ask, it looks crazy to the uneducated that you would put in that much road to get to a detention area. There's no, like, that can't be put at the end of the cul-de-sac or something
Well,
where?
as I explained before, the roadway has to go down there because that's where my wells and my well house are.
Well, I was gonna propose that too, that where the wells are, you could come off the end of the cul-de-sac. Now, I admit, there'd be a wetland crossing. So, my suggestion isn't all wonderful. But you'd get rid of 2/3 of this road. You'd get rid of that that detention pond, which is in the middle of what looks like a nice wildlife area, because you have all these fingers of wetlands interleaved with these fingers of upland. But we're cutting right through the middle of it with the road, whereas if you came off the end of the cul-de-sac and you put your detention area there, and then that road swung around over to where the wells are, that'd be a heck of a lot shorter road. And admittedly, you'd have a wetland crossing, but it's not a very wide wetland crossing, and it'd take away a heck of a lot of road. From my quick calculation, the WCD impact would be about the same. I don't think we'd reduce the
Yeah, I don't think you'd reduce much there. no.
You'd swap it for the area 3 and 4, which are about 20,000 square feet. You would replace with probably 20,000 square feet. But you would have shortened the road, and you would have gotten that thing out of the middle of what looks like a nice wildlife area. Not that a retention pond isn't, not that a retention pond's bad for wildlife, but that road into there just looks crazy.
It's quite a crossing, though.
That's what?
It's over 20 feet.
Yeah. But I mean, what is it? It's just the wetland, right? We're not talking, it doesn't even show as a stream.
It's just a wetland, so what I would probably do if I did that is propose some sort of a culvert under it and
Right.
dredge and fill most of it.
I mean, you're only talking about equalizing both sides. It's not really it's not even a seasonal stream or
Now, there is an existing road on this property that goes down to those wells now,
Yeah,
and they're using it, Paul. It's being maintained because they're getting trucks down there for pump tests and stuff, so.
Yeah, it would just be that we could let that grow back in
Overgrow.
and use the other. I don't know, Shane, it just looked, it's like, wow, look at all this road to get to these wells and to get to a retention area, when it could be just stuck at the end of the, I would think, at the end of the cul-de-sac.
I'm not sure I
And,
can treat all my drainage too from there. This road, we have kind of a flat area where we're
Okay.
gonna need something, but it, you know,
Well, it's the
Well,
only,
let's see.
those are my only comments to you. That was the only thing that seemed out of place, and it just seemed like a heck of a lot of road and a disruption to a nice wildlife area, and we could shorten the road probably, and, anyway, those are my thoughts.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, any other question? Yeah, comment?
Yeah, is that road already there?
so there's already an existing road. If you look at the plan, there's an existing woods road that goes down to the wells, and it's been maintained as of recently because they've been driving vehicles down,
Oh, this one right
yeah,
here?
to pump the wells.
Oh, okay.
So,
So you're gonna bring it over here and come along the backside
Right.
of the lots?
right,
Would you point that out on the TV, if you don't
yeah,
mind?
so there's an existing, I don't know how visible it is, right through here, all the way down, and keeps going right down to about where the wells are. And it's, you know, you can drive a vehicle down it right now.
Is it gravel or?
It's just cleared. It's not really gravelled, but they've taken a lot
But
of
it's
the
not
topsoil away.
paved?
No.
Is it gonna be paved?
No, it'd just be a gravel road. The town has to have access down to that detention area as well.
Yeah, how often will the road be used?
The water company, I think they do inspections maybe every 6 months or something, unless there's an issue at the pump house. There's like alarms and stuff on the pump house. You know, if they have a problem, then someone would have to go down there. But otherwise, I think regular testing is like every 6 months. And the detention areas, once the town takes it over, they might do like a yearly inspection on detention areas.
So it'll be minimal they're not
Oh,
gonna be
yeah,
any
no, it's
traffic
not,
of
no,
any
no, no,
kind.
no, and it's only, for like access to the wells, it would only be the operator of the wells. So this system is big enough that like I said, Hosco or Pennachuck would take over. So it would only be an employee, and that access would be gated, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be like anyone could go in there. The town would have access to maintain the drainage detention area, and Pennachuck or whoever runs the water company, system.
So would you be proposing a gate like right on the road, the proposed road?
Probably, yeah, because they're not gonna want people right, I'll tell you what, right now with that road, we're having a problem with people driving down there. Somebody shoved a Christmas tree in one of the wells a couple weeks ago.
They don't root after you cut them.
It's a fake tree.
Ridiculous.
It's got lights on it.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, we put up a chain while we were there last week, and no trespassing signs, but no, you don't want to open anything up for people to be driving down there, because it's just going to create problems. People are going to have fires and parties and do God knows what, so no, it'll be gated off.
So the road swings behind the houses, and then it goes down to the detention pond, and then it continues down the north side of the detention pond to
Yes.
the wells?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is typical. We do this on pretty much every subdivision. We always have an access point. Sometimes it's grassed over. We could probably do that here, as long as there's gravel underneath the grass so that people can drive over it. But we always have to provide access. You know, if you can't access it right off the edge of the road, you gotta have an access point.
And like Paul said, you already have the road there, you couldn't come through that location?
We can try and align it a little bit better with the existing
Like
roadway
if
if you like.
If you've already got a road there and you're already using the road there, could you not
We can try and align them a little
do
bit
that
better.
instead of going over there? And that would cut down one of the WCD areas. I know, Paul, you said go out the end of the,
Yeah, and
Other
my
than
idea
that-
might be stupid, because, you know, you might be chasing the slope. The topo lines look pretty steep after that culvert, after the cul-de-sac. So it may be you don't have enough flat area to put the, I was just trying to shorten the road. If it turns out the road's grass and it's gated off, and it's only used once every 6 months, and detention area is, you know, not something that's managed, then maybe my concerns are alleviated to some extent.
I also want you to look at that area off the cul-de-sac when we walk it, so that, you know, you get an idea of what that wetland looks like before you
Okay,
say.
I'd like to,
You
yeah.
want us to cross through it, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Well,
yeah.
I prefer when we don't cross the wetland.
Yeah. Well, me
Like
too.
shorten
Me
the
too, but,
road, but
yeah.
that, it's like, you
If we could do
know,
that,
some of
yeah.
this, some of that, you know, like it goes back and forth, but maybe if the road just came down to, you know, instead of going behind all the houses, it just came down straight through. It looks like maybe you could possibly put it like right along a lot line there.
Let me talk to
You-
the
you
engineer,
know,
and see
if
what
you
we can do.
kinda
to-
like just adjust a little, you might be able to get that road, one lot on one side, one lot on the other side, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe it's not feasible.
The other
but-
thing I can look into
a
too
question.
is that we might be able to move the pump house, which would potentially eliminate some roadway, but you still need access down to those wells if you ever have to drop a pump or anything.
Right,
so.
right.
You're still gonna have to get to the detention.
Shane, can we, when they, with that road, are there trees along the edge of that as you go down?
Oh, yeah, it's cleared. You could drive your car down it,
Okay.
and I wouldn't advise it right now, but.
I would like to see and talk about it, just to maintain that road so that we don't lose, that road doesn't start, you know, the trees and the bushes don't start creeping in and closing that up. That should be something that we look at to make sure that that is maintained down to the wells.
That would be up to the town, I think, wouldn't it be?
Town doesn't own the wells.
Well, the wells would be
Well, even if it went to the town, we still gotta maintain it.
the
You
wells.
don't
Well,
want
no,
things
but it
to
would be
close
the
up.
town maintaining it.
I completely
You know what I mean?
understand that. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
saying.
I'll tell you
we
right
just
now,
wanna
the water
make sure-
company's gonna maintain it.
Right, that's was gonna be my answer to that question.
They're gonna
Well,
maintain
and
it.
to the,
The town's not gonna maintain that road.
the town's gonna maintain it to the detention area.
The town's not gonna maintain it to the detention area, because
You
they're
don't
only
think
gonna
so?
do work in the summertime, and they just need to be able to drive a vehicle down there.
Oh,
It might be a backhoe, it might be anything,
Right.
but the water company is gonna need access to their pump house, and they're gonna drive a pickup
Okay.
truck
On
down
a
there.
fairly regular basis.
Yeah, probably every few months, 6 months or so.
The other thing is, we're speculating, because I've yet to see a maintenance schedule for all the detention ponds in this town that have been identified, quote unquote, so that's a conversation with Dina as to what's going on with maintenance.
I absolutely agree with that.
But that's not a question for here. But so why don't we, we've got a lot of good ideas, or we've talked a lot of things. Why don't we just schedule a site walk so that we can actually look at what this is, we can look at that wetland crossing, whatever, get a feel for this.
I'm gonna be out a few weeks, just so you know. So, you typically like to do them on a Saturday?
That's a preference.
Saturdays.
Preference, yeah. I'm out probably 3 weeks to do it on a Saturday, just because I have some plans coming up the next few weekends.
Okay. What kind of
Okay.
a rush are you in?
We're scheduled to go back to planning board on February 22nd.
Okay, so you'll be with us before that?
Yep, sure. We can do a site, I think we can fit a site walk and everything. I'm not available for like the next 3 weekends in a row.
So what's the date?
Yeah, who's got a calendar that makes sense?
Got the old-fashioned type.
Yeah,
have,
the old-fashioned form,
Manuel,
too.
huh?
You want to do it on a Saturday, you said?
That's preferable. I mean,
Okay.
Well, I just think it's hard to do it a different day. I mean, if
you need
if it was
sunlight.
June, you
Right.
could do it in
You
a.
got-
on a weekday.
You
Yeah.
got the 13th, the 20th, the 27th. Those are Saturdays.
Okay,
I
think
could do the 3rd as well.
No, that's January.
Yeah, that's January,
You
right?
don't want to look to
You're
February.
looking at February.
The 3rd, the 10th, the 17th.
The 3rd,
Correct.
yeah, the 3rd is in February.
Yep, 3rd, 10th, 17th, all those would be good for me.
Why don't we go with the
Well,
3rd?
should
If
we go on
something
the
happens,
3rd?
we can push to
Yeah,
the
then you have
7th.
Yeah, I
extra.
won't be here for
Or
the,
the 10th, I mean.
No, the 3rd or the
right
10th?
I won't be here for the 10th, so 3rd will work for me.
Let's try the
Okay.
3rd, because you're right, if we have to push it out, or
Right.
if some blizzard happens or something, we
So
can't
we'll
do
do
it.
it February 3rd?
Yeah, does that sound good?
Yeah,
That works.
Great.
What time do you like to do it at?
Karen likes about 5 AM.
Oh, no.
The rest of us prefer 9.
Yeah, right, let's vote on that one.
Nine's probably.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
yeah.
Sounds good.
And the meeting location?
We can park right on Spalding Hill. I'd recommend parking between, just after the house on 139, or right along
Does
Spalding
that
Hill.
house have a number and everything?
Is that part of the subdivision? Like, are we
Yes,
invading
it
those?
is.
Oh, all right, so we're not invading their space.
No,
If we park all in front of their house.
is
Shane,
31 Spalding Hill
what
Road.
address were you saying?
31 Spalding Hill.
31?
But I'll be there before you guys, and I'll park out on the street.
Okay.
So February 3rd, I just want to put this in here.
31.
Do we need to make a motion to have a site walk?
So that's Spalding Hill Road or Spalding? Road?
Spalding Hill Road,
Spalding
yeah.
Hill Road.
I'll make a motion, have a site walk if you think it's necessary, Karen.
I'll
I
second
don't
it.
know whether it's as necessary, but that's what we've been doing.
Not hard to
Okay.
do,
I think that's not a problem.
right?
Okay, do you want to call for a vote on that?
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Unanimous.
Okay, so that will be Saturday,
February 3rd,
February 3rd.
9 a.m.
Should we set the 17th as the backup date?
How long are you for?
Come back on the 24, 2 weeks.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll have to refigure it out if we have to do that. Saturday, February 3rd, 9 a.m.
At 31 Spalding Hill Road.
So I'll
Yep.
send a
Yep.
notice
Great.
out for that.
Very good. Thank you, folks. Appreciate
I do
it.
appreciate you making this smaller than what you first came to us with, because that was awful.
Yeah, I think that the open space on this property works good. And then, one other conversation that we're probably gonna have with you folks is that if there's any interest in the open space, because I know you folks have a bunch of open space, conservation land in this area of town, so, maybe a conversation for the next meeting.
Great.
Maybe we don't want any little fingers in between lots, though,
Okay,
so.
got it.
So to that point, Shane, we would want connectivity to the north. So this lot 142-13, somehow, and it looks like we would. It looks like the open space lot wraps around, so I don't think there's a problem. But see,
I think there's a lot between you and this. I think 144, isn't that?
There is, but I'm just saying, because if that were ever an open space subdivision, we could connect to that.
Right.
And then you keep going north till you get to the town land.
Right, that's where
Just-
you have a big piece up there.
Yeah, we have it connects all the way from Gumpus to Sherburne Road.
Right.
There's like 400 acres up there, so, yeah. But the way you have it laid out, looks like it works. There's quite a bit of frontage
Yep.
that abuts that other lot.
Anything
I
else?
just want to open to public. I don't see anybody here in
Yeah, I
public.
don't see anybody here.
We'll assume there is
Everybody jump up.
no one in public that was want to speak. Any further discussion? We're good?
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Shane.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Yeah, how often does somebody come with 25 lots on the standard subdivision and 22 on the conservation subdivision?
Not very.
It used to be
Well,
25
I-
on the standard, they come with 25 on the conservation, and then ask for 10%
Right,
bonus. So they get 27 or 28,
Well, I don't think they accepted his 25.
whatever,
They didn't
it's still
accept
good.
it, so.
Yeah.
Still better we look at it this way.
All right, so I'm going to go around the room, see if anybody has any walk-in items. I will start to my right. Kelvin, do you have any walk-in items?
I do not.
All right.
I do not.
Scott?
I'm all set.
Steve here? I do not have any walk-in items. Karen?
Okay, I have one that Al sent us, well, maybe he didn't send it to all of us.
It's about the phosphorus.
It's about a phosphorus ordinance that he wants to start exploring. Oh yeah, it says DL conservation.
We got it.
Yeah, he just said to bring this up during non-public, during walk-in. He said that he would like to get an ordinance together to limit phosphorus. He's given us a, I don't know, outline of what it could be. I really don't want to read the whole thing, but the ordinance would require that the properties situated within 250 feet of the 4 great ponds in Pelham would have state-approved septic systems on file. And then if there wasn't, there's, ways of going about to help get that done. He also included in his email that he thought that we need to add fertilizers, soaps, detergents to the ordinances as well as septic systems, and possibly consider limiting road salt. So I don't know if anybody has
Yeah, I would-
any comment about this?
Yeah, I went through it. I suggest maybe we hold off till Al gets back and have an in-depth discussion on it, because once we start going down this phosphorus slope, it's not only just phosphorus to worry about. And the idea of, is this gonna be self-policing? Are we gonna have somebody who's gonna go out there and actually test for this stuff? Are we gonna try to mitigate that phosphorus before it gets into the pond, into the WCD or the ponds that we're worrying about? Phosphorus is a damn hard thing to try to get rid of and mitigate. So I think we should have a discussion, and he's here, maybe he can add to it. That's
Sure,
it.
that's fine.
Sounds good, we'll
He
table
asked
it.
me to bring it up,
Yeah,
so
we
I
did.
brought it up. My other item is that I filled out a monitoring report for the Dunlap. I monitored Dunlap easement, which is on the corner of Pelham and Drake-it, the very, state line, corner of the state line. We don't own. We have an easement on 17 acres there. I monitored it in October, and I just filled out the monitoring report for Society of Protection in New Hampshire Forest this weekend. I know that's a big gap in it, but I had a few notes. And so I submitted that, and then I also submitted the monitoring report for the L-chip property that L-chip has an interest in, which is the Little Island Pond Conservation Area. It's like 22 acres. It's off Dutton Road. I walked that on December 25th, and I sent in the report for that. It's an online thing. It's hard to print out because it just gives answers when you try to grab it and print it. So, but basically it asks things like, what's the condition of the sign? What's the condition of the boundary markers? What's the condition of trails? What is the property used for? And that kind of thing. And the the Little Island Pond area is 22 acres. It has a large loop trail. It was logged well over 10 years ago. So it's got early successional, that's kind of thick, a lot of pine. The sign's in good condition. The boundary markers are not in good condition, but they more than likely will not get repainted until they go to log it again. I think I'm accurate on that, am I not, Paul? So, but anyways, the property itself is in good condition, and then the Dunlap, that's a working farm, so it's mostly field and pasture, and then with a little bit of woods on the back of it, and that's in good condition also, so.
Thank you, Ken, for
Those
taking care of
are
that.
submitted,
Thank
so, yeah, okay.
Much appreciated.
I'm done with my walking.
Ken?
Yeah, just one of the walk-ins. One of my other duties is on the ZBA, as you guys know. And one of the things we get, I guess they get every year, is a New Hampshire Planning and Land Use Regulation guide. I'd recommend that we try to get a hold of copies for all of the members of this Conservation Commission, because it does go into some detail in terms of what the Conservation Commission duties are and responsibilities. I know when I joined this thing, it was kind of like, well, come join the Conservation Commission. Well, okay, I'll join the Conservation Commission. what are the official duties and responsibilities? Well, kind of sort of this and kind of sort of maybe this. So I think that if you have a guide like this, you can go through it, you can pick out a section like the Conservation Commission section that I've highlighted, but also you can look at what are some of the other boards that are in town, what are they doing, and how do we maybe feed into those boards? So if you want, I can go to Jen and zoning and planning rather and say, can we get a few copies of this to hand out and actually read this thing? Because if you just get a copy and you stick it in a drawer someplace, it's not gonna do any of us any good, it's a waste of time and money. But if you want, I can go to planning and ask them, can we get these things? And it gets updated, I guess, every year. This is 23, 24, the latest.
Do they have copies in there now, or you're not sure?
I'm not sure, well, she has to order these things.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how many, if she has any extras. I know zoning, planning has it, I know the ZBA has it. I would assume the selectmen may have it, but I think anybody who's dealing with the town and these kind of things should have a copy of this, because it's a good reference material. There's all sorts of information in there.
Is it online?
I haven't seen it online. So I wouldn't think they'd be necessarily handing it out if it wasn't, but that's a good question to ask.
What about older editions? If
Well, the
they
problem
have
is they
them?
make changes, they revise
They're
the doggone
constantly
thing.
making
Yeah, and
changes.
there's court examples and whatnot that are in here as well, so, and they do make changes to different sections.
That would be nice if it was online.
Yeah, yeah. But I
Well,
like.
maybe you could ask them.
Yeah, if you could
Yeah,
find out
I
if it's
will.
available
Yeah, that's an
online.
action item, but what I like it this way because I can go in here, I can highlight the sections I'm interested in. I
Yeah.
can carry it around with me to a meeting like this and say, for example, what does the Conservation Commission, what are they supposed to do? Well, section 36A2 talks all about what it is, talks about the history, the revisions, how did things change, talks about, the composition of the commission, blah,
Well,
blah, blah.
that you can find online. If you go look up RSA 36.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Conservation Commission, so you
Right.
can find like
But-
current,
yeah.
all the current
Yeah.
stuff. like
So anyhow, I
what
just wanted
us-
to bring it up and say, if, we can get a hold of a few of these copies, it would be good. Or online, however way you like to digest this.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I love your enthusiasm. I don't know if I could read that.
Well, you wouldn't read it,
It's,
you wouldn't go through, you have to be really bored to do this, or if you're having trouble sleeping, but it's nice to be able to go back.
like
and-
just for a reference
Yeah.
or what, okay,
It's-
all
I
right.
just look
Well,
at
I
it and
just
say, hey,
don't wanna say-
for example, what's the ZBA supposed to do? What are they limited to
Yeah.
do? How many people, blah, blah, blah. Or what's the recent one we had is, because we've been, I'll say, disagreed with by the Housing Review Board on a couple of these. Okay, well, we've said, no, we don't recommend it. And then it goes to the Housing Review Board, and the Housing Review Board shoots us down because we didn't dot all the i's and cross all the t's, to be honest about it. There's a couple of examples of that. One was I'll say the proposed apartment complex on 38. That went to the Housing Review Board and they shut it down. Okay, and there's a bunch of reasons why they didn't. So I'm thinking if we have something like this, to understand what that next group might do, some of the work we do may support.
It's just gonna give us a little bit more
Yeah.
ammunition
Yeah.
to, have in our fingertips. And I do agree with you. Yeah, it would be good to have it in, on a computer or a,
Yeah, it's
tablet.
probably online, I'll find out what.
But,
The address
like
is
you were
what-
just saying, if you're in here and you just thumb through it, you got different things that you got marked off and
Yeah.
you know exactly what's going on with it, I think that's good.
Yeah, because I know at the ZBA meetings and whatnot, people actually have this, and rather than, because we do have, that was another thing, we do have, not laptops, but iPads that have been furnished to the ZBA, so you can look it up on that, but a lot of people are still old school and they want to be able to, have something.
Well, the fact that you can highlight it, like you were just saying.
Yeah, and that's all I did, is I
Make
just,
notes or
Absolutely.
whatever.
yeah, when I have nothing to do, I just was like, okay, let's highlight the sections that I care about right now. Or let's, turn the edge of the page.
Yeah.
All right, great,
Thank you very much. Anything else?
that's it.
Mr. Gagnon?
I would only add to what Karen says, we actually get paid for what she does. She doesn't get paid. But I believe LCHIP pays the town,
They
I
do.
think it's $200 for
All right.
doing that monitoring, and it goes to the Conservation Commission budget. So it's not a
Very
lot,
cool.
but Karen doesn't get paid, but the town does. And other than that, I think we have a non-public, right? I have a couple items, but I'll bring them up in non-public.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse, you have anything?
Did we approve the minutes?
I haven't done that
Oh,
yet.
no, we haven't got to that yet. Did you have comments on
No,
it?
no.
Oh, okay.
Thought we usually do that.
Oh, no, I have a list, I gave Mike a list, he seems to
Give it
be,
back.
he seems to be doing it adequately, so.
So walk-in items have been complete.
Okay,
very
there
good.
you
All right,
go,
check
check
that box.
mark.
So minutes, can we vote on the minutes from December 13th, 2023? Can someone make a motion to approve the
These are the
minutes?
public
I'll make an
minutes.
motion to
Yes.
approve them.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
I was absent in that meeting, so.
Okay, so it's 6. You're gonna abstain then?
6-0 and 1 abstain.
Okay.
All right, then can we vote on the non-public minutes of December 13th, 2023? Can I have a motion to approve the non-public minutes?
Motion to approve.
I'll
Second.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained?
Yeah, I wasn't at either of those meetings, so.
Question.
Okay, so is it a 5? All right, I'm messed up.
What if someone was to say that they want to clarify or rewrite some of those non-public minutes? Do we have to go non-public to have that discussion?
I would think so.
Probably, I hope that people are sending me, when I send them, I hope people
yeah,
are
yeah,
sending
yeah.
like, hey, we should have done this,
Yeah,
or,
but, so
This
if
was
the
said.
discussion's warranted, we go into non-public, is my question, that's all. I would assume that.
probably.
I mean, she does send the meeting
No,
minutes
no,
out
no, I'm not
early enough.
challenging you.
Yeah,
yeah.
This is not a real, this is not a today
Oh, it's
question, but
just-
it's a
okay.
process, procedure question.
So, Scott, did you not vote on, did
Well,
you
what was-
abstain for both minutes?
Yeah, that's not the site walk we're talking about, right?
I haven't
No,
done that
we
yet.
haven't got there yet.
Okay, good. I'm
It's coming.
abstaining, I'm abstaining on both of the ones that I
Yes,
was not at.
that's fine. Did you got the minutes from the sidewalk? I sent them to everybody. Did you get a copy of them?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
It's probably on my Pelham webmail or something that,
okay. Well, that's fine. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, so can we have a vote on the site walk minutes of December 16th, 2023? Can I have a motion to approve the site walk minutes?
So moved.
Now, some people weren't here for that, so, like, I wasn't here, so I'm
Right,
not
so
gonna vote on
the only
this.
ones that
So
can vote are the ones that were
people
there.
vote that went to the sidewalk.
So the motion is to approve?
Yeah, who was it, Paul Gagnon?
Yeah,
Paul?
and I went, so I can make a
I'll
motion.
second, if I can.
Yep, you can.
Aye.
All right,
Mike.
I'll second otherwise.
all right, doesn't
Okay,
matter,
that's
yep.
fine.
So
All right, so,
Let's vote.
Okay,
all in favor?
Aye.
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 so what's that?
Do I vote
For-
on this one since I was here? But I'm
Not if you weren't on the
I'm
sidewalk.
I was
You
on
were,
the sidewalk.
you
He was on the sidewalk,
I'm,
but he's not
Alternate for this meeting.
part of this
Not
meeting.
So you're
Yeah,
not-
I don't think
you
you
can't
have to,
vote.
no.
So with me,
So it's
Paul,
4? Yep,
you were not there, yeah. Four of
Four.
us,
I was here, there.
and then
4-0,
0, and then 3 abstain. I am abstaining, you're
Yep.
abstaining, you're
Dave
abstaining.
abstained.
Okay, let me write that down. Okay, all right,
All
we're all
right.
good. Yeah.
So we will be going into non-public session. Can I have a motion to go into non-public
Make a
session?
motion to go non-public?
Okay, you
Second.
gotta
Can I have a
read-
second?
you gotta
I'll
read
second
this. You gotta read
All right.
this.
I will,
He's gotta read
Oh, he's
this.
gonna read
This gotta, this,
I would like to make a motion to go into non-public session to discuss land acquisition in accordance with RSA 91-A3. Seal the limits of the meetings on non-public and adjourn after the non-public.
Yes. Okay, now who seconded
Who's
that?
gonna second?
I did.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank you, everyone. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 14th, 2024. Good night.